Inside the walls of the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, there's a stone marker that reads, "Nagashino is the Alamo of Japan. The Alamo is the Nagashino of America. Whoever knows the heroes of the Battle of Nagashino knows the heroes of the Alamo." The brave defense of the Alamo is relatively well known in the United States, but the battle referenced on that marker, the defense of the fortress of Nagashino in Japan in 1575, much less so. However, it does represent a similarity in how the two cultures understand the nature of heroism. It is history that deserves to be remembered. In the 16th century, Japan was going through a period known as the Sengoku Jidai, or the Age of the Country at War. Small warlords ruled different parts of the country and fought with each other over territory as well as control of Kyoto, the capital city at the time. There was an emperor, but he was merely a figurehead. The true ruler, the warlord who controlled Kyoto, was called the shogun, and he acted as a hereditary commander-in-chief. There was bitter fighting over this position between the different feudal states. A new weapon, the matchlock musket, had come to the attention of the warlords in Japan around 1543. Historians believe that the matchlock was invented in Germany in the early 15th century. The simple musket fired when a burning cord was pressed into the priming pan by a spring that was activated by pulling the trigger. The Japanese traded for their first matchlocks from some Portuguese. There was still some uncertainty as to how best to use the weapon in Japanese warfare. The wealthy and ruling class were the samurai, who utilized the traditional weapons of the katana and the wakizashi, also known as the big sword and the little sword. The code of the samurai, Bushido, was not yet formalized or codified into laws in the 16th century, but the warriors of Japan were fierce. Compared to the Western concept of chivalry, the code of the samurai valued honor, duty, family, honesty, compassion, and, if ultimately defeated in battle or mortally wounded, the warrior took his own life in an act called seppuku, or ritual suicide. The samurai, or mounted warrior, was accompanied by foot soldiers and retainers. The foot soldiers, conscripted peasants, had previously armed themselves by looting battlefields and picking up whatever weapons they could find. The foot soldiers did not have the training or discipline of the samurai. However, the age of the country at war and almost constant fighting created a need for trained standing armies. Warlords began equipping their foot soldiers with a spear, cheap sword, breastplate, and a conical helmet of iron or leather, and muskets. Takada Katsuyori, a powerful warlord, attacked Nagashino Castle in June of 1575. His clan, the Takeda, had been at war with the Tokugawa clan for years. He attacked the Tokugawa's castle, Nagashino, because of its strategic location at the juncture of the Onagawa and the Takagawa rivers. Katsuyori believed that if he took Nagashino Castle, that he would be able to launch an invasion into Mikawa province and drive a wedge between the territories held by the Tokugawa allies, Tokugawa Ieyasu and Oda Nobunaga. Okadera Sadamasu, a 24-year-old retainer of Ieyasu, only had a garrison of about 500 men to defend Nagashino Castle from Katsuyori's force of 15,000. Sadamasa and his men bravely repulsed Katsuyori's attempts to undermine the walls and push back the siege engines and samurai who tried to take the castle. When Katsuyori settled in for a long siege with the goal of starving the garrison into surrender, Sadamasa knew he needed to summon help. A volunteer named Tori Sunimon promised to run a message from the defenders of Nagashino Castle to Ieyasu and Nobunaga. At midnight on June 22nd, he cut through the ropes Katsuyori had sung through the rivers surrounding the castle and snuck past the besieging troops to Okazaki, where the leaders of the Tokugawa clan were camped with their troops, some 38,000 men. Sunny Moon reported that Nagashino was besieged by Katsuyori and had ample ammunition to continue the fight, but only enough food to last a few days. He implored Ieyasu and Nobunaga to relieve the castle's defenders. After securing their promise, Sunny Moon attempted to return to Nagashino Castle the way he had left it, but Katsuyori had discovered the cut ropes and restrung them, with bells this time. Sunny Moon was captured, and Katsuyori ordered him to yell to the garrison that the Tokugawa clan wasn't coming and that they may as well surrender now. Sunny Moon agreed, but when he was brought to the castle walls, he shouted that the relief troops were on their way. In a rage, Katsuyori crucified the messenger. Katsuyori's advisors believed that their best chance to survive the approaching Tokugawa clan would be to take Nagashino Castle and then fight their enemies from within the walls. Katsuyori disagreed and said he would fight Ieyasu and Nobunaga on the field and defeat them with his tactics and fearsome cavalry. Katsuyori had reason to believe his cavalry could win the day. His own father had been credited with developing one of the first methods of utilizing the mounted men to their best advantage, the Cavalry Charge. On June 29th, Katsuyori divided his forces into 5 divisions of 3,000 men each, 3 forces facing the approaching Tokugawa clan, 1 force facing the castle, and a final force held in reserve. Nobunaga knew the reputation of Katsuyori's cavalry, and to counter the threat erected stockade fences with gaps strategically placed between them. These fences sheltered Nobunaga's matchlock men, the 3,000 best shots in his forces, standing in ranks of 3. He commanded the men to hold their fire until the enemy was close, and then to fire 1 rank at a time. His hope was by the time the first rank had fired and reloaded, the third rank was just finishing their shot, and, as a result, to create an almost continuous round of volley fire. Katsuyori ordered his men to attack the stockades because not only had it been raining and he believed their gunpowder wouldn't fire, he also didn't think the peasants would be able to stand up to his highly trained cavalry. He was disastrously wrong. The volley fire technique of Nobunaga mowed down the cavalry, and the foot soldiers used their short spears when the warriors came too close to the stockades. They held their line when Katsuyori's cavalry tried to run around the sides of the stockade and prevent the warriors from flanking them. When the defenders of Nagashino Castle saw Katsuyori's army failing, they came out of the castle and joined the fight. When the smoke cleared, Katsuyori had lost 10,000 men, about 2/3 of his force. The Tokugawa clan, on the other hand, had only lost 6,000. The victory at Nagashino was the beginning of the end of the age of the country at war. Katsuyori would commit seppuku a few years later. Nobunaga died, historians say, after being shot in the side with an arrow by an enemy and then walking into a burning temple to end his life with honor. Tokugawa Ieyasu, Nobunaga's ally, became shogun in 1603, and the dynasty he founded would rule Japan until 1867. The famous defense of the Alamo began on February 23, 1836, when a mere 189 men from the Republic of Texas walled themselves in the Valero Mission as Mexican General Santa Anna approached with more than 2,000 men. There was, of course, a significant difference in the defense of Nagashino Castle. The men of the Alamo sent for help, but their call was not answered like the defenders of Nagashino. At the Alamo, that messenger was 29-year-old James Bonham, who was sent by William Travis to recruit help, and, when unsuccessful, chose to return to the Alamo, where he died. By the time the conflict had ended in March 1836, the defenders were dead, but they had killed more than twice their number of Santa Anna's men. Similar to Katsuyori's ultimate defeat, General Sam Houston vanquished Santa Anna in the Battle of San Jacinto in April 1836. Dr. Shigetaka Shiga, a Japanese university professor of geography, was the man who created the monument in the Alamo. He was struck by the Battle of Nagashino's similarities to the Alamo, which included troops in a barricade, young commanders, an overwhelming force holding a siege, a heroic messenger braving enemy lines to seek reinforcements, an enduring legend, and a larger army taking the majority of the casualties at its conclusion. Citing all these similarities, Shiga paid for the monument and convinced the caretakers of the Alamo to allow him to install it. At the monument dedication on November 6, 1914, Shiga was presented with live acorns from nearly 100 prominent citizens of San Antonio. They hoped he would plant the seeds in Japan to further the goodwill gesture between the two countries. Shiga said, "I shall tell the people of Japan these acorns came from the citizens of San Antonio and the great state of Texas, and I shall strive to make my people better understand the friendliness, generosity, and hospitality of the inhabitants of far-off America." The 4-foot-high marker bears the words, "Stone from the native province of Sunimantori, the Bonham of Japan, in the province of Nagashino, the Alamo of Japan." After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 1941, there were calls to have the monument removed. It was vandalized the day after the attack, and the civic group responsible for the monument stationed a guard to protect it. It was protected because, as the defenders argued, it wasn't even written in Japanese. The poem was written in Chinese, and it did not represent the Japanese government. Shiga had composed the poem in Chinese because that was the custom at the time. At the bottom of the monument, the poem concludes, "In spirit, there is no difference between East and West. You should not wonder, then, that I drink a toast to your memory." The monument still stands in the Alamo, and you can go and see it today, as it represents that similarity in spirit between the defenders of the Alamo and the warriors of the Battle of Nagashino. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The History Guy, short snippets of forgotten history between 10 and 15 minutes long. And if you did enjoy, please go ahead and click that thumbs up button. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions for future episodes, please write those in the comment section. I will be happy to personally respond. Be sure to follow The History Guy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and check out our merchandise on teespring.com. And if you'd like more episodes on forgotten history, all you need to do is subscribe.